Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So we had a patch go through today where the changes to the Warrior banners and Chronomancer has gone through. I spent some time testing it, granted limited time in very specific situations such as around an Arborstone and in the Special Voices training area where I didn't really know what I was doing. So my overall reaction might be a little bit different from what is the expected of like the meta and all that stuff, but from a normal player's perspective, let's talk about the changes. So I want to hit on Warrior first because I think what the Warrior changes are some of the most positive in this patch and have really shined. So Warrior, essentially your only application of quickness on your banners without trading for it will be on Banner of Tactics. This banner is meaty. The duration of the quickness itself is meaty, and I was playing on a character that only had 7% concentration. So ultimately, you could just run this with 0 concentration. And what I was able to do when I additionally traded for it using the double standard straight line is I was able to get permanent uptime on quickness without having any concentration. I was running 3 banners, so take that into account. And I was also utilizing the tactics line, which when I used my F1, my primal bursts, I would then share out more quickness. So if you choose your traits wisely and are looking to build in that DPS quickness provider, you can do so. Now, when it comes to the amount of DPS that you're doing, that comes up to more discussion of how much DPS should these boon providers be hitting, how does it compare to the others. From what I tested out, it's not a high amount of DPS, but then again, this was like the first day. I was playing it for a couple, an hour, if that. So I haven't really nailed down a certain build for it, but in the coming days, we might see more builds pop up that utilize these changes to Warrior banners in addition to the double standards trait. I tested it both on Bladesworn and Berserker. I got more damage out of Berserker, and it was fun. But I also liked the gameplay of Bladesworn. So, give or take, whatever you kind of prefer in terms of gameplay, you can kind of go for that. I think it's just really important that at this point, Warriors are now able to grant a very healthy amount of quickness by not even really speccing into concentration. But that leads me to another point, is that smart design of essentially not needing concentration and building the duration of quickness to such a high number baseline where you can actually fulfill that role without even speccing into it. That kind of comes down to more of a discussion where should we be compelling players to specialize into a role by encouraging them to take stats that are associated with that role. So if you want to be a healer, you would take healing power. If you wanted to play something that was more boon uptime, you would incorporate more concentration into your gear. I tend to agree with that design philosophy more so, because if you go down this road of not having to specialize and take certain things to fulfill a role, you kind of start to encroach at the level of Firebrand Mechanist, which sadly have not been hit. So word of caution, I would just kind of not really keep doing this as much and maybe lower the numbers just a little bit. Granted, you do have to take some traits for it, so I kind of understand where it is coming from, and your DPS will take a hit because you are focusing more so on juggling both DPS and quickness uptime. So for the Warrior, I don't think it's a glaring issue, but it is something where I'm maybe a little bit more cautious of it. As for the other banners, they tend to feel pretty good. I think Banner of Defense, once again, the Aegis feels a little unnecessary in a way. I just think that the barrier is good enough. Playing with a build that has no healing power, I was hitting 3,000 barrier. As for the Banner of Tactics, the stability, the super speed, the quickness, and the resistance, it's just such a big utility scale. I would prefer to see the quickness once again on another banner to further incentivize it. Banner of Strength on a power build is your damage in days banner, and it looked to be hitting decent numbers. It was like 1.6 thousand baseline. But as for Banner of Discipline, this one seems to be a bit more of your condition damage focused banner. This one, it wasn't doing as much flat damage, and its bleed was, more or less, kind of middle of the road. If you built more condition damage into it, you'd probably get more use out of it. But I think the quickness should be on either discipline or strength, something to where you are associating quickness with DPS more, which would allow you to do more damage while upkeeping these boons. That's what I would have personally done, or if you really wanted to, where in the future, if you ever do give Alacrity to Warrior on an elite spec, maybe it would have been wise to actually put quickness on battle standard to where when it popped down, it pulsed out quickness instead of reviving people, and then over its duration, it would also pulse a few packets of quickness. Just in case they ever do go down the road of providing Alacrity, say with an elite specialization, there's so much quickness on the core Warrior now where that could be an issue for balancing later on. Granted, I don't think quickness and Alacrity shouldn't be on core professions. I just would be a little cautious of putting lots of it, which Warrior seems to be doing. And I like the way that they've done it with Ranger, where it's on one specific isolated area of Ranger. But having this now kind of bleed into multiple utility skills and multiple traits, it could maybe present a further issue. Nevertheless, all the banner changes were really good. I think that they are really solid, and you can definitely run a quickness DPS build for Warriors, where if you need to fill that quickness role, you can now do so. With Warrior covered, let's move on to Mesmer. Now, Mesmer's changes were a little bit less exciting for me, and I don't think they've actually really hit the mark. So what they've done is that they have buffed Greatsword and Sword. Baseline, I think that's nice. It's just, I guess, fun to see a little bit more damage integrated onto these weapons that are damage focused. Just keeping it up to speed, I guess. But the one thing for Chronomancer, which looks to be their effort of improving the damage on Chronomancer while being able to provide these boons, was to improved Alacrity. So in addition to its previous effects, this trait now also increases your critical strike damage by 10% when you have Alacrity. Now, I was playing with this and I really didn't see much of like an improvement. It didn't feel like it was what I needed. And it also competes in the same column with a trait that increases your critical strike chance. So it's like, do you want to increase your critical strike chance, or do you want to increase your critical strike damage? Now, to an extent, that actually is kind of nice if you happen to be playing at 100% critical strike already. But with that said, I don't know, I feel like you could have placed the damage modifier on a different trait. And I don't know, I just feel like Chronomancer is still going to be the go-to quickness provider rather than Alacrity, which really feels like a sharp turn from where we were with Chronomancer. Chronomancer was originally the only class that could apply Alacrity, and now it feels like it's one of the worst, one of the least exciting ones. And to a certain extent, Chronomancer and Spectre are the exact same, where it's now just popping down a well gives you Alacrity. And to a further extent, that just kind of speaks poorly to the overall class design and fantasy of the game. And ultimately, I just don't really know what to do with Chrono. Doesn't need to provide both quickness and Alacrity. In essence, I think that it would be cool to allow Chronomancers to apply both, because that could be its unique feature in the sea of elite specializations at this moment. Of course, specializing into one of the boons would enhance that particular game style and that particular boon. But I don't know, I just feel like there's got to be something for Chronomancer to kind of have a spotlight. Chronomancer has gone from the top of the pack and has just plummeted to the sewers. And honestly, kind of waiting for Firebrand and Mechanist to also experience that narrative, but we have to wait and see for more balance patches for that to happen. But yeah, I don't know. Just Chrono's feeling a little sad. And it further makes me question why the hell they put Alacrity on Mirage. Like, why? That also doesn't make any sense for Mirage. Like, give it quickness. I think the way that they're going with differentiating elite specializations and which boons they apply and when I say boons, I don't mean any other boons except quickness and alacrity, because these 2 boons are so damn powerful. I don't know why they haven't just nerfed the boons themselves to maybe be more in line and not as much of an issue, but I digress. If they really wanted to differentiate, I would have put Chronomancer with alacrity, where you were the master of alacrity, and have Mirage be the master of quickness. When you used your ambush skill, you would share quickness out to allies. When you ran into one of your mirrors, it would explode in an area, granting quickness to allies. I think there are more fun things you can do if they want to specifically hone in on a boon for each elite specialization. But once again, they could go down the road of allowing Chrono to play with both and let that be its unique feel. And then if they did end up giving Chrono more of an alacrity and, you know, more of a defined alacrity boon, maybe we could see Chrono be more of that classic healer, as we already have a well that's all's well that ends well, where it heals allies. I don't know, a time mage healer kind of sounds interesting to me. I don't know. What do you think? But ultimately, those are the 2 biggest classes that were hit for this balance in both negative and positive ways. I think Warrior has definitely been improved, and I think Mesmer has seen some baseline improvements, but Chronomancer as a specific spec hasn't really been brought up to speed in the way that maybe Warrior was. So I would love to hear your comments down below. How are you feeling about this particular patch? There are more things to get into with this patch, so be on the lookout for some Twitch streams over on my Twitch, streaming every day of the week. I'll catch you over there. Love to see you. Like the video if you liked it, comment down below your thoughts, of course. And if you'd like to support the channel and get early access to videos, head on over to the Patreon. If you'd like to purchase Guild Wars 2, recommend it to a friend, or try it out for free, feel free to use my links down below. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone!